So huge welcome to Ian Johns, who's head coach of Paralympics GB Judo squad. Recently a UK Sport Award winner too, from what I understand. So thank you for speaking to us. Anyone who's watched any of the VICTA Sport videos so far will know that we've interviewed a lot of vision impaired athletes over the past 12 months. But we've not actually spoken to many coaches who work with those athletes. So whilst it's important to hear from those athletes about their journey into their sports, the barriers, the challenges, and their successes, it's also important to hear from the coaches that train those athletes, just to understand what they do to ensure those athletes get the most and fully access their training. So there'll be lots of coaches watching this, I think, that will be keen and curious to find out how to possibly adapt their sessions or learn a bit more about inclusive sport for those with sight loss. And Ian, they might be surprised to learn that a lot of those adaptations aren't as extensive or as scary as they might initially seem. So before we get onto all of that, let's find out a bit more about you. Tell us about yourself, how you got into sport generally and judo, and how you became involved with the Paralympic judo squad.
My name's Ian, and I'm from Scunthorpe, of all places in the country. Um, I have been a judo fighter since the age of about 6, 7 years old. Started doing judo. I'm a bit of a naughty kid. I'm from a massive family, so my mum and dad were like, "We need to get him something. We need to get him a sport where he could be a bit rough and tumble. He can let off a bit of steam and all that kind of stuff." Um, Started taking it a little bit more seriously when I got to maybe about 13, 14. Started winning a few competitions in this country. I was on the GB team for maybe about 10, 12 years as a junior and as a senior. Could never quite punch through the ceiling to get to an Olympics. Um, or any of the big major championships. But I did all right in my sport. Like I was a reasonably good athlete, full-time dad as well. So we had a kid when I was 21, and have coached for a long, long time, like with different levels. I don't just do judo, so I love football, I love rugby, I love many other sports. I trained to be a PE teacher actually, so I took badges in a number of different sports, just to make sure that when I did become a PE teacher, that I had a little bit of knowledge about these other sports. I got a serious injury. Loads of serious injuries. Judo is that sport where you can get some injuries, but I snapped my ACL in about 2011 time. That was kind of when my career finished. Um, and I was a steel worker at the time as well, so I was making my money, keeping the roof over our head by being a steel worker. And after I got injured, I kind of thought, right, what's next? So I just started. In fact, I bumped into a national coach. This is how it actually happened. Like I'm a complete accident an elite coach, that's for sure. But I bumped into one of the national coaches at Flamingo Land. I was hobbling around on my knee. He'd had another operation himself, and he just asked me what I was doing next week. So I said, no, not a lot. He asked me if I wanted to come up to a training camp that was happening in Kendal, and then my journey as an elite coach kind of started there because I was never going to be an elite coach. I thought I was going to be a PE teacher. And yeah, my first like proper this is my first ever proper job in sport, shall we say. I was a support coach for the England program on the Olympic side. But I was only like a rent coach who'd go to events and weekends and like all the rubbish trips that nobody wanted. I would go on those trips just to get a bit of time doing what I was doing, just ready for when I qualified. When I qualified to be a teacher in 2014, I got a phone call from British Judo saying, "We've got a job for you if you wish." Now, I had been doing some work with some visually impaired athletes before that, or fighters before that. I'd taken two of them to the Inspiration program in London. where you get to go and have a go on the backgrounds and see what it feels like to be an athlete. Go in the village for a little while, go to the sports events and stuff like that. Really good program, to be fair. But I still wasn't going to be a coach at this point. And then, like I say, in 2014, I got a call from British Judo saying there's a position opened up. It's a great opportunity if you fancy it. And then here I am 10, 11 years later, still doing the same job. Yeah. And now, probably like where I am now, I've done 3 Paralympic Games. My first games was Rio, and then where we didn't get any medals, we got 3 fifth places, and then in Tokyo we took a gold and a silver, and then recently in Paris we took a silver and a bronze out of 3. So yeah, I'm kind of like an accident as an elite coach is shall we say, but I am an all-in coach, so I do everything from the elite fighters all the way down to the parapotential team. So, which is basically a bunch of visually impaired people all getting together, doing a bit of judo, doesn't matter what level they are. So, I think that's more than enough from me. I am a big Liverpool fan as well, so maybe I just need to say that.
We'll end the interview there then. As you say an accident, but for it to be in it that long and to have those achievements that you've just described, it's worked out very well for you. But that when you got that call in 2014 from British Judo, so we've got this opening for you, and obviously you've accepted that role. You've sort of said that you've had a little bit experience of VI athletes, but not not a lot. What was it like that first session or that first meeting with those athletes? And were you given any support in terms of, right, this is how you might want to start structuring your sessions, or this is the sort of thing you might need to be aware of? Or was it sort of learning on the job and just sort of speaking to the athletes themselves? How did that work for you?
Completely learning on the job. I have made so many mistakes. I have like the, the lads would say, I'm not visually impaired. In fact, for my sins, I've got 20/20 vision. So like I see everything. So when they go to weigh-ins and stuff like that, I literally see everything. So no, completely straight in. One of the first things I did was I spoke to the team at the time, the 2 guys I was working with at the time, because it was really small numbers. We had 2 guys that were on the full-time program. Then we had 2 to 3 on a potential program, should we call it, and then we had another couple of athletes that weren't part of the national training centre. So they were based. One was based in Scotland, and one was based in Kendal, kind of way on. And I didn't work with them on a day-to-day basis. So the first thing I did was just say, right, what do you need from me? Like, what is it that I can do to help you get to where we need to be? And it was great because both the fighters that I worked with at the time were just like, we just want to be better than the Olympic team. Oh, brilliant! I can do that because I know what it takes to not be an Olympian. So like I did everything that I could do to be an Olympian, and I didn't get there, so I can do that. And we started off. First thing we started off with, you wear kit. Like when you're given kit, you're proud to wear it, and that was the very first thing that we did. So, but then after that, you have to make a few mistakes. You have to say come over here, and they say where is over here. You have to say what do you want for off the menu, and they say, well, what's on the menu? Things like that. You have to upset a few people now and again by asking them, how much can you see? Because I don't know how much you can see. Do you need guiding at night time? Do you need me to read the menu, for example? That's before you even get into the sport. So I think like over the years, I'm probably still not any better, to be fair. I still make mistakes with people, but I'm the kind of person that doesn't really care if I do make mistakes. I can admit it and I can just say, okay, fine, let's move on pretty quickly, because you can't really have time to be upset about how much I've asked, how much you can see, and I've misplaced your water bottle and stuff like that. So I think like as far as like being with that team, the first thing, they just want to bet on the Olympic team. Okay, we can do that. The training is no different. The sport is no different to the Olympic sport. The only difference really is that the VI fighters start on the grip, so they start holding on to the person that they're competing against. Whereas on the Olympic side, they don't do that. Um, I've often got quite a bit of terminology a bit wrong. I am a Northerner. I'm from Scunthorpe. It took me 3 or 4 times to pass English. so, so like I do get the terminology a little bit wrong now and again, and with description sometimes, and not always perfect. But I've built up some real good trust with my fighters. So the ones that are absolutely blind, the ones that are visually impaired, we've learned over the years to trust each other, and when they need help, they tell me I need help, and that's the best way of probably saying how we've got to where we are today.
And I think you've highlighted two really important things there, which is making mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes as long as obviously you learn from those, but
Yeah,
also that communication between you as the coach and your the athletes that you work with to understand actually what it is that they need and what it is the support that they might require, not just in the session, because a lot of what you spoke about was actually in and around that. So whether it's when you're part of a training camp and you're traveling, or whether that's like you doing a sort of social thing together. It's actually more of those elements than the actual sport and the actual training session itself. Is that fair?
oh, absolutely. Like I just think to myself, because it's so easy if you're just looking after you, like and you move around, you go going through an airport, for example, is hard work. If you've got 15 visually impaired people, 6 of them are blind and they've got sticks, and it can be quite difficult to manage that. I mean, there's usually 1 or 2, maybe 3 staff with me as well. So but like it is difficult to move around. So sometimes I just have to be the right, come here, get next to me, and then I kind of guide people about, and you get a lot of people trying to help, which is great. But then I have to say to them, I got this, don't worry. You're a little bit scared about the sticks, but the guys are fine. If they're with me, they'll be okay because they know that they can trust that I will make sure they go in the right place. I haven't lost many of them. So, like, you know what I mean, when we go through an airport. So, and often people that are with us, so like if we get some support coaches that have not been abroad with the team, are often amazed at the military operation of getting them through security, and how quickly we can get them all through. So, but I think like yeah, just being honest with people. And my guy's really honest with me. Like if they need a toilet, they say I need a toilet, and so I take them to the toilet, and it's easy, you know. They tend to be so independent that I do give them some rope and let them go a little bit. But and that they know that if something messes up, I'm usually there, or some of my staff are usually there as well. So um, that's come with a little bit of time on task, should we say, with the different visual impairments that the guys have.
And I suppose yeah, you work with quite obviously a range of athletes and a range of vision impairments as well, different ranges of sight loss. So do you find that you have to adapt possibly to those that have got more severe sight loss compared to obviously those with a little bit more vision, or um, what we do a lot of our activities is that we encourage obviously the young people that we work with to support each other. So those with a bit more vision will support those with slightly less vision as a way of sort of developing that independence. Is that a similar approach you use with your coaching?
100%. It happens actually quite naturally. Like I think I mean our national training centre where the national team train. So it's one of the only places where Olympic and Paralympic athletes all train together. So all the resources, everything is pulled in the same place. So all our guys, the Olympic guys, they only know about working with visually impaired after they're used to them being around. So if one of my guys needs has lost a water bottle, for example, it's nobody makes a big fuss of it. They just say what color is it? Where should it be? And then they go and get it for him. So I think like yeah, the when we go away with teams, obviously then it becomes the team. So then I do have some fighters that have a little bit more vision than the others. They still struggle, but they have a little bit more vision. So we tend to give them that independence. If they want to go for a coffee, I don't always go for a coffee with them. They don't need me or 100% of the time is like when they're back home, they get about places. The only thing that they need is just a little bit of familiarity. So, but they tend to stick together as a good little unit. To be fair, whenever we go, um, you know, we're not going to the easiest of places. Sometimes, like some of our competitions are in Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan, or so it's not as easy to get about. But I mean, the Paralympic sport in itself is so like adaptable. Like I can always remember my first time in the Paralympic village. I was in awe, like of people, and then I've realised they're just people who are just getting by. I mean, I'm short and stumpy, and like I can't find jeans that fit me because my legs are massive. So, and I've realised they're just like me. Like they're just making the world fit around them. So, um, and so I try to as much as I can give them that independence and that sense of just being a human being. Like, I mean, I don't always feel sorry for them. I tend to like say, "Oh, where did you put your bottle? Like, you're supposed to put your bottle here. You're supposed to put your flip flops there. So as when you come off the mat, you've got your shoes." So I tend to like be a bit straight with the guys as well, which they respect because they just see me as sensei. They don't see me as the carer. They don't see me as the guy that just guides them everywhere. They see me as the person that is responsible for them doing what they do. And that goes from all the way from the young fighters that we have to the more experienced first team that we have. So
I'd like to talk a bit more about all the traveling and all the places that you've been to as part of being part of the sort of Paralympic squad. Before we get to that, you mentioned about the Olympic squad and the Paralympic squad all training in the same place. Have you noticed because of that that the sort of that environment, that training environment, and the sort of surrounding environment has that changed or adapted so that it's inclusive of all athletes that use that facility and any athlete that comes into that environment is obviously familiar with where everything is, and it's an inclusive environment that will support anyone that chooses to use it or enter it. Or is there still some work to be done? How is that? What changes have you noticed in that environment because of that?
we've done our best. Like that is the best way of describing it. We've done our best. Luckily the dojo itself is really easy. There's a big mat area, um, three walls of the mat area. I've got mats all down them as well, so it's really easy to be in that space. There is a drop off on one side with a step down. Um, Most of the guys that we have there full time, they know that's there, so they very rarely fall down them steps. Um, the gym itself, because it's on site, so everything is really close together, which is fantastic. Um, the only issue is we've just had it all rebranded, and so for the guys that have some color blindness and it looks a bit all the same because they've done it like in really fancy colors, black and grey colors. I know that doesn't sound fancy, but it is actually, it looks really cool. Um, um, and so there's just bits like that, and the gym can, if there's loads of people in there, it can just be bits left about. It's a normal gym, people, that's what they do. Um, but I think the biggest change that we've had is that the staff and the other people in the environment are just really good. So, like, as I say, I'm not visually impaired, so I don't always understand like that bag in the way might cause somebody to trip over if they haven't got a stick with them, or like one of the fighters that I have, his vision is more like tunnel vision, so he can't see anything below him. He's massive. He's like 130 kilos, something like that. So, like if you're under a certain height, you get stood on. So you don't realize sometimes that these things are an issue until they become like a bigger issue. But I think the staff and the people around the National Training Centre are so good, and they're so used to having visually impaired people in and around the place that it doesn't matter if somebody comes in who's blind, they get treated the same as all the rest of the other athletes. And I think that's really cool. Like, like I say, it's not always all right, really nicey positive. If my guys leave something out, they get told off by the guy, the S&C coach, to say, "Hey, you've got to put that away." what if somebody else comes in there could fall over that, or you put this weight in the wrong place. Did you need help putting that back in future? This is where it goes. So I think like treating them as just athletes, or we call them fighters, we don't call them athletes, but like treating them as fighters, treating them as we're all the same. If you do this bit right, you do that bit right, then you get what you're given, kind of thing in the environment. But the people are so good, that when other sports come to visit us, they're often like, "Oh, this place is buzzing," and you sometimes when people are watching the judo sessions, they can't tell who's visually impaired on the mat because they're just doing their judo and everyone's looking after each other and they have enough space, and it's not like a really clean feel to it, like oh, they're visually impaired, so we need to make sure we section off this area. It doesn't feel like that. It's just
Yeah.
that everybody's aware of it. So if Jack's on the mat, for example, everybody knows he's massive, so we need to give him a little bit of space. So just give him a little bit of space. They don't have to cone it off, or they have to put, like in some nations you go, and some of these people are like they're roping areas off for visually impaired people, and they can't train at the same time as everybody else. They have to train here and do this and do. So yeah, I think our guys have just not not become. It's definitely not become almost like blasé with it, but they're very much aware that they just need a little bit of assistance sometimes, and not all the time. It needs to be picked up
There's
every.
a sounds like there's a real sort of culture of respect there as well as part of that entire environment, which is great. And I think a lot of sports environments could learn a lot from that. I think as part of their sort of inclusive plans.
Yeah,
Um,
it still causes a little bit. So, like, if the VI lads are in the gym, for example, and they might not have seen that somebody's lifting, so there still causes a little bit of just VI moment, should we call it, where they could walk into a bar, or they could some
yeah.
like people still get upset about that. And our guys tend to say, sorry, Rich, straight away, just couldn't see it. So, so it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's not perfect. That is for sure. But we definitely have a good environment for the guys, and that is really inclusive. Um, by making it so open, so as everybody just helps each other, they still get stuff wrong. Like, they still walk about, they still trip over stuff, they still could spill the drinks everywhere and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
And we've sort of referenced throughout this entire chat about the Paralympics, and you've mentioned a few places that you've travelled to, including obviously Rio, Tokyo, and Paris, and the success that you guys have had. But it's not just the Paralympics. You guys have got tournaments and competitions throughout the year. We're at the start of 2025. What have you got coming up? Where are you planning to take groups, either for training camps or
Yeah.
competition? What's coming up?
So, oh gosh, well, luckily we've just got the calendar through. So normally after a Paralympics, it's really slow, picking up competitions and training camps and stuff like that. So, firstly, because you run out of money, and then secondly, just because a lot of people are taking rests and breaks and stuff like that. So we've been back since Paris. We've got cracked on. We had one competition in Kazakhstan, um, which was very cool. We did really well in that. That was the first competition with the new weight categories, so they've changed weight categories for my guys. So that was really cool just before Christmas. But now, so we're back fully. We've been on a training camp in Kendal, where quite a lot of the team were up in Kendal for a few days. Um, Out in the cold doing some proper training outside, lifting big logs and like the Rocky montage we like to call it. And then doing a fair bit of judo as well. And then next week I take a couple of the guys away to Georgia for a few weeks, going for 3 weeks. And then as soon as we come back from there, we have a competition in Germany, excuse me, in Heidelberg. And it will probably be the biggest team we've ever taken away to a competition. So we've got like a big mix of the Paralympic team, should we say, and then the para potential team are all coming as well. So really looking forward to that. that'd be really cool. And we've got like a bit of a training camp after that for a couple of days. And then for the rest of the year, we have competition in Georgia. It's just like an open. Then we have the World Championships in Kazakhstan in June time. Then we go into Egypt for a competition out in Egypt. Then we're going back to Georgia for the European Championships at the end of the year. But in the meantime, we'll probably be in all different places. I'm hoping to get over to maybe Japan or Korea for a training camp with the first team. And then we have a lot of training opportunities in this country as well. We have our Power Potential team is great. Something that that we that I we in made possible before COVID times because I can remember after after Paris thinking not after Paris after Rio thinking who's next because I didn't I couldn't find the athletes. I couldn't we didn't know what to do next. So we created the Power Potential team. And within that Power Potential team, not everybody's going to go to the Paralympic Games, but it's not necessarily for that. We might find the odd one or two that goes to the Paralympic Games, but it's not about finding that. It's more about giving these guys the opportunity to train with visually impaired fighters for their mums and dads and wives and girlfriends and husbands and whatnot to all talk to each other about how they can get free bus pass and how they make a cup of tea and all that kind of stuff. So it's like a really nice that we tend to have them for full days or full weekends. Um, and yeah, it's just a good place. We can teach them the rules. We can teach them about classification. We can teach them about different judo stuff. So I get the first team to come in and show technical work with the group as well. So, but that we have some really good times with that group as well. So, yeah, so we have that. I don't know, maybe 6, 7 times throughout the year. We all get together for a weekend, and this year might be the first year that we invite some foreigners to come over as well, like some of the other nations that have some uh, newbies, should we say, that they want to just do a little bit more. So we will invite them over.
Right. And if any sort of any young person, as a VR young person watching this, possibly thinking about judo, we've been sort of heavily promoting the Paralympics, Paralympic GB's Discover Your Paralympic Potential events. Get yourself down to those, have a go, see what you think. You never know, might be something that takes your fancy. You could be going to all these places as well in the not too distant future.
One of the things that sorry, Luke, one of the things that I've realized over the years, that VI people don't always want to be kept in cotton wool. They're just human beings. They like rough and tumble. They like the idea of being able to throw somebody, like to be able to hold somebody down for 20 seconds. It is a really, really competitive sport and so inclusive because, like I said, there's not many other sports where it's an exact carbon copy of the Olympic sport. So that the rules are the same, barring the fact that they have to just start holding on to each other. So I think like that is really appealing to people because like once you get into a community where everybody can talk about the same sport, then it just makes life so much easier. You know what I mean? So I think like uh, a lot of I'm not. That's not probably not a nice thing to say. But like like a kid will turn up that's brand new to the sport. And they're like, oh my god, they've been thrown through the air and they've been held down, they've been arm locked, they've been strangled. Um, and yet the kid will be like, this is brilliant. I'm really enjoyed this because it's really competitive. It's really disorientating when you do get thrown over and all that kind of stuff. But like I think we haven't had much transfer from other sports, but just recently, people that have transferred over from VI sports have said, "Wow, wish we'd done this a little bit sooner." A bit like me in my career, I wish I played rugby a little bit sooner with my football skills and my chucking about skills. I think I didn't realise rugby I would have been as good at it. So, and I think a lot of VI people are like this is really competitive, and probably not realised that there's a sport out there. Just because I'm visually impaired or I'm blind doesn't mean that I'm not ultra competitive. Because every single person I deal with, including on the parapotential team, they're all competitive. If I set them a task of doing 100 throws in 5 minutes, they're trying to do 101. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think like judo is one of those sports where you can really throw yourself into it. That's the judo. You can really throw yourself into it and just like yeah, you don't always win, and that's great. Like that's the nature of sport. So um, yeah, so I think like if any young person, or you could be a little bit older. I mean, I know a lot of VI people lose their sight a little bit older, like in 28, 29, 30 years old. We've had people start at 30 plus, and you don't have to go to the Paralympics. You know, there's the VI circuit in this country is getting better and better in judo. So the fact that we have VI national championships now, we've never had that. But over the last few years, we've been able to join in with our adaptive team and make an actual visually impaired section to that. So yeah, judo is on the rise at the minute. I mean, it is thanks to the fighters that we have currently because they're getting out there and they're telling people how good our sport is. You know, having people like Skelly and Dan Powell, they're on social media telling everybody about judo and what they get from it as visually impaired and blind people. You know, so I think yeah, if I was visually impaired, then that would judo would be the sport I would choose. I'm biased, of course, but I would choose it because I'm ultra competitive and judo gives me the forum to do that.
And just to finish, and slightly putting you on the spot, you're a coach. You've trained to sort of be a PE teacher. I'm hoping a lot of coaches and PE teachers will be watching this just out of curiosity to find out what they could do to learn more about sort of including those with sight loss in their sessions. What for you would be that big bit of advice or takeaway for those watching that thinking, yes, I need to learn how to adapt my sessions or include those with sight loss within my P lessons or my training sessions. What would be your sort of big sort of takeaway for them?
And when I was doing my training, essentially they spoke about differentiation anyway, so which is what all good coaches, all good teachers, they are able to take a session, take a skill, and then make it fit every single person in the room. You might be able to fit it to somebody at a higher level than somebody else, but it might just take a little bit more uh, I don't know, maybe a bit of trial and error with some people. I've had to learn um, the learning styles of my fighters. So you know, some people can if I video it, for example, which is what I tend to do a lot of the time. If we're doing technical work, I tend to video it. Some of them can see that, some of them can't see that. If on the phones with zoom in, they can see the technical work and slow it right down. I mean, technology has really helped with that. Um, or they have it black and white if they can't if they've got like light issues and stuff like that. But I think like just not being afraid to just yeah make mistakes. Like I've a trial and error so many different ways of getting my coaching points across to my fighters. It's some of them it works this way, some of them works this way. When they do reflections after the sessions, my guys tend to do voice notes into a technical WhatsApp group chat, and then we put video footage in there, and we tend to add in their personal coaches, and but, you know, we'll put anybody else in this technical group, but that doesn't work for everybody. Like it works for my team, like because they just like to have something on record where they can go back to something that they do. Now that took a bit of trial and error. That like actual coaching people I tend judo's a sport where you get your hands on people and you show them. So you literally can show them the technique by doing it on them. So yeah, not being afraid to do that is probably my biggest advice. Is not to be afraid, not to be afraid to get it wrong, not to be afraid to jump in, not be afraid to yeah have a go.
Brilliant. Ian, thank you very much and best of luck with the squad for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much.